What if I told you the blood pressure number scaring you the most might not even be your real blood pressure? Not because the machine is broken and not because your doctor lied to you, but because you checked it at the exact wrong moment. And that happens all the time. People see one big number, panic, tell themselves they have a serious problem, or do the opposite and brush it off because the next number looked fine. But the real question is this: are you measuring your blood pressure? Or are you just measuring what happened to you in the last 10 minutes? Because those are not the same thing. And if you don't understand that difference, you can get fooled in both directions. You can think you're healthier than you are, or you can think you're in danger when what you really measured was your staircase, your coffee, your bladder, your argument, your traffic, your anxiety, your phone, or your doctor's waiting room. Blood pressure is one of the most useful numbers in medicine, but it's also one of the easiest numbers to mess up. And when you mess it up, that wrong number can change what you do next, what your doctor thinks next, and what happens to your body next. I want to tell you about a man who checked his blood pressure after rushing in from the parking lot, still breathing hard, coffee in hand, phone buzzing, shoulders tight, already late for work. He wrapped the cuff on, hit the button, and saw a number that terrified him. He thought, "This is it. Something is wrong with my heart." But when we slowed everything down, when he used the bathroom, sat quietly, rested his arm properly, and checked it the right way, the number was completely different. Not perfect, but different enough to change the whole story. And that's why this matters. And one thing I can tell you with absolute confidence is this: blood pressure is not a personality trait. It's not a fixed identity. It's not a number tattooed on your forehead. It is a living signal, changing minute by minute, reacting to your body, your mind, your movement, your habits, your environment, and yes, the exact moment you choose to check it. So in this video, I'm going to show you the 5 worst times to check your blood pressure and when to actually do it instead. And this is more important than most people realize, because a bad reading doesn't just create confusion. It can create false reassurance. And false reassurance is one of the most dangerous things in health. If your blood pressure looks normal only because you checked it at your easiest hour, you may miss a real problem. If it looks terrible only because you checked it in the middle of chaos, you may scare yourself, overcheck, spiral, or even get treated based on a picture that doesn't represent your everyday life. What we want is not a dramatic number. We want your representative number. We want the truth. Blood pressure is simply the pressure your blood puts on your artery walls as your heart pumps and relaxes. But people make the mistake of thinking that because the machine gives one reading, that reading must be some deep, permanent truth. It isn't. It's a snapshot. It is one frame in a movie. And if you pause the movie during a car chase, you don't get to say the whole film is a car chase. The same thing happens with blood pressure. If you measure during a moment of stress, stimulation, discomfort, or physical strain, you may be measuring the scene, not the story. So let's get into the first worst time to check it. And this one surprises a lot of people because it sounds healthy. The worst time, number 1, is the second you wake up and launch out of bed like a rocket. If your alarm goes off, you jolt awake, sit straight up, start thinking about emails, kids, bills, deadlines, the dog, the commute, and then slap on the cuff immediately. That number may not tell you what your body is doing at rest. It may be capturing your morning surge plus your mental surge, and those are powerful. Your body is not neutral when you wake up. It is changing gears. Stress hormones begin rising before you even fully open your eyes. Your heart rate starts climbing. Your blood vessels tighten a bit. Your system moves from sleep mode into action mode. That morning rise is normal. But if you check at the exact moment you're startled, uncomfortable, or mentally racing, you're adding noise to a signal that is already sensitive. So if you ever told yourself, "My morning blood pressure is always awful," I want you to ask a better question. Is it awful, or am I checking it at my most biologically dramatic moment? Here's what to do instead. If you're checking in the morning, that can actually be a very good time, but not instantly. Wake up, use the bathroom, get settled, sit quietly for a few minutes. Don't talk, don't scroll, don't argue with the news, don't start making breakfast, and then check it before you eat or take blood pressure medication, unless your clinician has told you otherwise. That is a very different morning reading than the one you get while half asleep, half panicked, twisting out of bed and trying to beat the clock. Same body, different timing, different truth. And that leads to worst time number 2, right after you've been rushing, climbing, lifting, walking hard, or exercising. In other words, right after you have reminded your cardiovascular system that it is alive and needed. Maybe you hustled up the stairs because you were late. Maybe you carried groceries in from the car. Maybe you walked in from a hot parking lot in July. Maybe you had a great workout and decided, let me see how I'm doing now. That is not the time to check for your resting blood pressure. That is the time your body is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Your blood pressure rises during physical effort because your heart has a job to do. It has to move more blood, deliver more oxygen, support more activity, and keep you upright and functioning. If it didn't rise with movement, that would be a different problem. So when people check it right after activity and say, wow, I have high blood pressure, sometimes what they really found is that they are a human being with circulation. Now, of course, abnormal responses to exercise can matter, but your home blood pressure routine is not meant to measure your post-staircase survival mode unless a clinician specifically asks you to. This happens in clinics all the time. You park far away, you're late, the elevator is slow, the waiting room is tense, your name gets called, and within seconds, somebody wraps the cuff on your arm. Then we all act shocked that the number is high. That number may be real for that moment, but is it representative of your ordinary life? Maybe not. That's why one office reading should almost never be the whole story. If you want a home number that means something, give your body time to stop performing. Sit down, rest, let the engine idle instead of rev. In general, if you've exercised, had vigorous movement, or done anything that obviously gets your heart rate up, give yourself time before checking. And even in everyday life, if you just rushed in from outside or finished hauling laundry or cleaning the kitchen or chasing a toddler through Target, don't sit down and expect a perfect resting number in 10 seconds. Your body needs a landing strip. You need stillness. You need a little separation between life happening to you and the number you are about to record. This is not about gaming the system. It's about measuring the right system. Worst time number 3 is right after caffeine, nicotine, or other stimulants. And America, we need to talk because a lot of people are checking their blood pressure with a giant coffee in one hand and the cuff in the other, or after an energy drink, or after vaping, or after a cigarette on the porch, or after cold medicine with a decongestant because they have a stuffy nose and a long workday ahead. Then they act confused when the number climbs. But those substances are not spectators. They are participants. They can change heart rate, tighten blood vessels, and temporarily distort the picture. Caffeine doesn't affect every person the exact same way, but for many people, it absolutely can nudge blood pressure higher for a while. Nicotine is even more obvious. It stimulates the nervous system and constricts blood vessels. And decongestants can do the same thing, which is why people with hypertension are often warned about them. So if your routine is coffee first, news second, blood pressure third, you may be turning your morning number into a report card on your stimulant stack, not your cardiovascular baseline. And if you do that every day, you may convince yourself your body is more unstable than it really is. The smarter move is to separate the reading from the trigger. If you know you are trying to get a representative measurement, Do not smoke, vape, slam caffeine, or take that reading right after a stimulant and pretend it means the same thing as a calm reading. If you really want to know how caffeine affects you personally, that can be a useful experiment. Take a calm reading first, then compare it later. But don't confuse an experiment with your baseline. Those are different questions. One asks, what is my blood pressure? The other asks, what does this habit do to my blood pressure? Worst time, number 4, is when you are emotionally activated. After an argument, after scary news, after a hard phone call, after a frustrating doctor visit, after reading a text message that made your stomach drop, after doom scrolling, after checking your bank account, after hearing a politician say something ridiculous on television. In those moments, your body is not quietly reflecting your long-term pressure state. It is reacting. Your nervous system does not care whether the threat is a tiger, a traffic jam, or a family group chat. If your brain feels danger, your body prepares for action. And this one is especially sneaky because it creates a trap. You feel off, so you check your pressure. The number is high because you're upset. That high number scares you more, so you check it again instantly. Now you're even more afraid, more focused, more tense, and the next reading stays high or climbs. Then you conclude something terrible is happening right now, when what may actually be happening is a panic loop. I have seen this so many times. A person isn't just measuring blood pressure anymore, they are measuring fear feeding on itself. This is also why the doctor's office can be such a tricky place. Some people truly have higher readings in medical settings and lower ones at home. That's called white coat hypertension. And it matters because it can make a healthy person look sicker than they are in ordinary life. The opposite can happen too. Some people look okay in the office and run higher at home, especially during the part of the day when nobody is measuring them. So again, the question is not what was one number. The question is what pattern best represents your real world. That is why home measurements done correctly are so valuable. If you're upset, do not use the cuff like a lie detector for your emotions. First, get yourself still. Sit down, loosen your jaw, put both feet on the floor, stop talking, stop scrolling, breathe slower than you want to, and wait. Let your body come back from the edge a little. If the number was high, repeat it later under proper conditions. A single stress reading is information, yes, but it is not the whole verdict. You do not want to build your self-image around your most activated minute of the day. None of us would look good measured there. Now for worst time number 5, and honestly, this one might be the biggest hidden villain of all. Anytime your body and your position are not actually settled. That means when your bladder is full, when you're talking, when your legs are crossed, when your feet are dangling, when your back isn't supported, when your arm is hanging down, when the cuff is over clothing, when you're texting during the reading, or when you're balancing on the edge of an exam table like you're about to take off. People do these things and then trust the number like it came down from heaven carved in stone. But body mechanics matter more than most people realize. If your bladder is full, blood pressure can rise. If you're talking, it can rise. If your arm is unsupported and hanging too low, the number can read falsely high. If your feet aren't planted and your posture is tense, your muscles are working, even if you barely notice it. If your legs are crossed, you may alter the reading. If the cuff is the wrong size, that can skew things too. These are not tiny, meaningless details invented to annoy you. They are the difference between noise and signal. Some of the estimated effects are not small. Talking during the reading can push the number up. Crossing the legs can do it too. An unsupported arm can do it. A full bladder can do it. Stack multiple errors together. And suddenly, the reading is not just off by a point or two, it can be off enough to change how the whole moment feels. Think about that. A person can sit there scared of a number that was partly created by a conversation, a cramped position, a badly supported arm, and the fact that they really needed to pee. That should make all of us more humble. And here's the hidden truth that almost nobody tells you clearly enough. One of the worst times to check your blood pressure is when you are not truly checking your blood pressure at all. You're checking your setup error. You're checking your life chaos. You're checking your rush. You're checking your discomfort. The machine is innocent. It is faithfully reporting what it sees in that moment. But if you give it a messy moment, it will give you a messy number. And then you have to live with the emotional consequences of a reading that may never have represented your actual resting state in the first place. So now the big question becomes, when should you actually do it? If those are the 5 worst times, what are the golden windows? The answer is wonderfully boring, and that's good. We're looking for boring blood pressure. We want repeatable conditions. We want calm. We want consistency. We want less drama, not more. For most people monitoring at home, the best approach is to check at roughly the same times each day, usually once in the morning and once in the evening, under the same quiet conditions. Not whenever you feel weird, not whenever curiosity strikes, not whenever life explodes. The first good window is in the morning after you've used the bathroom, before breakfast, before caffeine, before nicotine, and before blood pressure medicine, if that is what your clinician wants you to track. But remember, not instantly after waking. Give yourself a soft start. Sit for a few minutes. Let your body settle. Support your back, feet flat, arm at heart level, no talking, no phone, no TV, no multitasking. Then take the reading. This morning number can be very helpful because it catches your body before the day starts pulling strings on it. The second good window is in the evening at a consistent calm time. Some people do well before dinner. Some do better later in the evening before bed, as long as it isn't right after alcohol, exercise, a stressful conversation, or a heavy meal. Consistency matters more than perfection. What you want is a window you can repeat. Because if you check one night right after tacos and traffic, and the next night after a hot shower and meditation, and then compare the two like they are equal, you are comparing 2 different planets. Pattern comes from routine, not randomness. And every time you check, don't just take one number and run away with it. Take 2 readings about a minute apart. Sometimes the first reading is a little higher because you're still adjusting, still paying attention, still slightly alert to the cuff squeezing your arm. The second number often gives you helpful context. Not always lower, but often calmer. If the first one is surprising, don't let that one reading write the script in your head. Finish the process. Let the second number speak too. Blood pressure is a conversation, not a jump scare. If you're trying to figure out whether your blood pressure is truly running high, you also need enough readings over enough days, not one Tuesday, not one scary morning, not one strange moment after a sleepless night. Many clinicians like multiple readings over several days, often morning and evening, especially if you're trying to confirm a pattern or see how treatment is working. That matters because blood pressure fluctuates. If you only collect the readings that happen to emotionally hit you, you will build a distorted story. And distorted stories create bad decisions. Data becomes wisdom only when it becomes a pattern. This is why I want you to think like an observer, not a reactor. So write down the date, the time, the number, and maybe a little context if something unusual was going on. Poor sleep, salty dinner, lots of stress, forgot medication, hard workout earlier. That doesn't mean you are making excuses. It means you are learning how your body behaves in real life. And when you do this for a little while, patterns start appearing. You stop feeling ambushed by the number. You start seeing cause and effect. You stop being superstitious and start being informed. Device choice matters too. If you are serious about home monitoring, use a validated upper arm cuff, not a random wrist gadget that looked cute in an online ad. Make sure the cuff size fits your arm. Too small can mislead you. Too large can mislead you. And if you're not sure whether your machine is accurate, bring it to your clinician's office and compare it with theirs. People will obsess over single numbers while using a cuff that doesn't fit and a technique that changes every day. Don't do that to yourself. Accuracy is a kindness. And let me say something important here, because I know how people hear this topic. I am not trying to turn you into someone who checks their blood pressure every time the dog barks. More checking is not always better checking. Anxious checking can become its own problem. If you are repeatedly measuring during the worst possible moments, you are not becoming more informed. You are becoming more distressed. The goal is not surveillance. The goal is clarity. We want enough accurate readings to understand your pattern, not so many chaotic readings that you lose your mind. If you ever get one high reading, don't immediately assume disaster. Pause. Ask, did I check it correctly? Did I rest? Did I just move? Am I upset? Did I just drink coffee? Is my bladder full? Was I talking? Was my arm supported? Then sit quietly and repeat it. One elevated number is a flag, not automatically a final verdict. But if the numbers are repeatedly high under proper conditions, that deserves attention. You are not supposed to ignore patterns just because one number can be wrong. This is not about dismissing blood pressure. It's about respecting it enough to measure it honestly. And there is also a moment when you should stop self-experimenting and get help. If blood pressure is extremely high and you have symptoms like chest pain, shortness of breath, weakness, trouble speaking, vision changes, severe headache, or something that feels neurologically wrong, that is not the time to sit there taking 7 more readings trying to negotiate with the cuff. That is emergency territory. One reason I teach people how to measure correctly is so that when a number is truly alarming, you can recognize it with more confidence and act faster, not slower. I also want to point out something emotionally important. A lot of people have a strangely personal relationship with blood pressure. If the number is high, they feel judged, like they failed. If the number is normal, they feel absolved, like they won. But blood pressure is not a moral score. It is feedback. It is information. And the more accurately you collect that information, the more useful it becomes. Shame makes people hide from the number. Fear makes people obsess over the number. But steadiness lets you learn from the number. That is where the power is. I've seen people walk around for years saying, my blood pressure is always weird. And what they really mean is my method is always weird. They check only when they feel bad, or only after coffee, or only at the pharmacy kiosk after shopping, or only at the doctor's office while nervous, or only at night after a big restaurant meal. Of course it looks chaotic. The routine is chaotic. When we clean up the routine, the picture often gets a lot clearer. Sometimes the pressure really is high, and now we can address it. Sometimes it was the timing that was loud. And that's the contradiction at the heart of this whole video. The blood pressure machine looks objective. It looks definitive. It looks like a final answer. But it is only as truthful as the conditions you create around it. The machine tells the truth about the moment. Your job is to make sure the moment itself is worthy of trust. If you don't do that, you can chase fake highs, miss real highs, or drown in confusion. If you do it right, blood pressure becomes one of the most empowering health tools you have in your own home. Just a quick pause here. If you're finding this helpful and you care about understanding your body before it forces you into an emergency, take a second to like the video and make sure you're subscribed. I hear from so many people who watch regularly and don't realize they never actually subscribed. And if you already are, thank you. It helps me keep making these videos and helps this kind of practical health education reach more people who need it before something preventable happens. So let me bring it all together. Clearly, the 5 worst times to check your blood pressure are: number 1, the second you wake up and jolt into your day. Number 2, right after rushing, climbing stairs, working out, or doing physical effort. Number 3, right after caffeine, nicotine, stimulants, or certain cold medicines. Number 4, when you're emotionally activated, panicked, angry, stressed, or doom scrolling. And number 5, anytime your body and setup are not settled, like when your bladder is full, you're talking, your legs are crossed, your back isn't supported, or your arm is hanging there doing its own thing. And when should you actually do it? Morning and evening, at consistent times, under calm, repeatable conditions. Use the bathroom first. Avoid smoking, caffeine, and exercise beforehand. Sit quietly for a few minutes. Use a validated upper arm cuff that fits. Keep your feet flat, your back supported, and your arm at heart level. Don't talk. Take 2 readings about a minute apart. Write them down. Look for patterns over days, not drama over seconds. That is how you turn a home monitor from a stress machine into a tool of insight. Because the real goal is not to collect numbers, it's to protect your brain, your heart, your kidneys, your blood vessels, your future. High blood pressure becomes dangerous when it lives in the dark, when it goes unnoticed, or when it gets dismissed because the measurement was sloppy and confusing. But it also becomes dangerous when people become so frightened of random readings that they stop trusting themselves. Accurate measurement gives you a middle path, not denial, not obsession, just clarity. And clarity is often the very first step toward prevention. If you've been feeling confused by your readings, let this be the day that confusion ends. Don't ask only, what was my blood pressure? Ask, what was happening when I checked it? Was I calm? Was I at rest? Was I set up correctly? Was this my real baseline or just my recent chaos? That one question can change everything because it changes you from someone reacting to numbers into someone understanding them. And once you understand them, you can finally use them the way they were meant to be used, as early warning, not late regret. So the next time that cuff tightens around your arm, remember this. You are not trying to catch your body in a dramatic moment. You are trying to hear its honest voice. Give it quiet. Give it consistency. Give it a fair chance to tell the truth. And when you do, that number becomes more than a number. It becomes a window into your real cardiovascular health. Not your last cup of coffee, not your latest argument, not your full bladder, and not your panic. Your real health. And that is the number worth trusting.